Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it'll be, like we talked about before, it'll be exciting to see what he does in that 19. And just too bad that Kyle's not ended up going back to Joe Gibbs. I thought, that might have happened, but looks like it'll be Chase Briscoe instead.
Yeah, yeah. You'd wish that Kyle Busch would go back there, wouldn't you, buddy?
Every week, I just wish it more and more and more. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite couch potatoes, a Redneck Boys edition, and Big Country and me are here to break it down. You ready to get into this?
Yep, ready to go left and go hard, and all the things that people love to make fun of NASCAR for. So,
Well, yeah.
right
Drink beer
into
while
it.
doing it, right?
Of course, gotta
All
have
right.
fun.
Well, let's get into the silly season because it's kind of popping off right now. And then, like we talked about last time, surprise, surprise, Chase Briscoe was named the driver of the 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing. Just a couple of things to note about it is that he is going to keep the Bass Pros sponsorship. Guess they just said that he's an outdoorsman already, fishes, does all that hunting and all that stuff that Bass Pro is about. So yeah, he's going to stick with that. And then he said on the Stacking Pennies podcast, Corey LaJoy's podcast, that Joe Gibbs came up to him and said, "Hey, look, Martin has a deadline. We have like a week to make his decision, and if he retires, we definitely want you." So this was a easy choice, it seems, for Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like they really attacked him as soon as it became known. It's definitely a good move, I think, for both crews. And I think Chase Briscoe is a real good driver, and I think he'll do good at Joe Gibbs. It's awesome that he gets to keep the Bass Pro sponsorship.
Right.
Um, just because, I mean, Bass Pro is a huge sponsor, and they always have been in NASCAR. So.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think it'll be, like we talked about before, it'll be exciting to see what he does in that 19. And just too bad that Kyle's not ended up going back to Joe Gibbs. I thought, that might have happened, but looks like it'll be Chase Briscoe instead.
Yeah, yeah. You'd wish that Kyle Busch would go back there, wouldn't you, buddy?
Every week, I just wish it more and more and more, but we'll have to get into that later.
So next up, we got Josh Berry. Josh Berry is to replace Harrison Burton in the 21 for Wood Brothers Racing in 2025. But there's no news on Harrison's plans yet on what he's going to do. So
Yeah, I wonder. That's too bad. I mean, I liked Harrison Burton, but I mean, it's not really a surprise. He's usually finishing in 25th to 35th, something like that. No real success, and I'd say it's a downgrade for Barry as far as like the quality of ride. Like, not that Stuart Haas is great, but they've been better. So I expect maybe we don't see as much success, but he's an upgrade from Harrison Burton, I would say. So it's good
I
for the
def-
Wood brothers for sure. And Barry needed someplace, so good for him too. Sticks with Ford and everything.
yeah, I definitely think he's a good upgrade for them. Because I mean, Josh Berry hasn't really done all that much. I mean, he's a middle of the pack driver. He took over. I forgot his name. Harvick's
Yeah,
ride. He took over Harvick's ride this year and hasn't really done much with it, I would say. So I think he's definitely a better driver than Harrison Burton because Harrison Burton's usually back there in the 20s,
right.
and Josh Berry's now in like the 15s, somewhere in there. So yeah, I think it's a good upgrade for the Wood Brothers Racing and all around besides Harrison Burton. So
Yeah. Yep.
next up we get Alex Bowman. He's signed through at least next year, and he has been the most talked about ride being open for Hendrick. His performance this year, and if where to get a win solidifies him in that seat essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's done pretty well this year. I mean, he's got a lot of top 10 finishes, and like we talked about on the podcast before, where he's had big long streaks of getting top 10s, and
Yep.
his hasn't been able to get across the finish line and first. So it sucks to see because I know he's a good driver, especially I mean a good driver finishes top 10. Now the greats like that drive right now, like
Hmm.
Larson, all the Hamlin, all those guys that have 3 wins on the season. That's a different type of level, and I think Alex Bowman's right below that with how many top tens he's had. So
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that 100%. I think that it's just, yeah, just basically chatter. And I think a lot of fans, are like, hey, Bowman's clearly the, worst performing driver at Hendrick. And with just, so many young people in Xfinity and everything. And then with the move at Stewart Haas shutting down, like, you know, you start to wonder, and there's rumblings. But yeah, like I said, he signed through next year. And then with him having, like you said, a pretty good season, a consistent season, it's good enough to keep you in the ride. And yeah, definitely if you get a win, I think you're going to stay in there. So
yeah,
probably seeing Bowman in the 48 for at least a little bit longer. But
yeah.
let's move on to 2311 racing. This was just kind of interesting because I had not heard about this at all, but Bubba Wallace is still not signed through next year. But I mean, they did say a deal's expected, so they just haven't gotten the fine print signed or whatever you want to say. But yeah, that's kind of weird that Bubba doesn't have a deal yet.
Oh yeah, and I think I just because Bubba's been pretty good. I think 23XI as a whole has really stepped up this season. They've kind of fallen back a little bit to now. They had a really good start to the season, I feel, and Bubba Wallace actually looked like a top 10 driver,
Yep.
and not like past seasons where he's 15s and stuff like that. So I think that they should resign Bubba with how much improvement they've seen this season. With just the all-around team as a whole, I do think you just stick to it and keep grinding out the success and everything. But we'll see what happens.
Right. And he's such a popular driver in NASCAR today that it's kind of like I feel like it's a given that he's going to be in that ride for a long time unless they, just have someone that is just going to be way better for him. But it's kind of like when like Danica was racing at Stewart Haas. Like she never was, putting out great finishes or anything, but she was selling a lot of merch and a lot of people wanted to watch and follow because she was a woman in NASCAR, and it was really cool to see. But like, yeah, that's kind of in like Junior at Hendrick. Like Junior was definitely the worst performing guy there, but they kept him as long as they could in that ride because of how much he brought to the team, just attention wise and popularity and everything. So yeah, that's kind of what I see for Bubba. A little more news on 2311 Racing is that they are one of the teams, I think we mentioned it a few podcasts ago, that is likely to get a charter from the Stewart Haas fallout. And I saw it was possibly going to be the number 67. And they're thinking of driving or adding Riley Herbst. With that monster sponsorship that he already has in place, could be a guy that fits right into that. Um, but I also did read that they are looking at Corey Heim as a guy that they really want for the long term, but he's still in trucks. He hasn't really consistently run in the Xfinity series yet. But I think he did race. Was it at Nashville or it might have been in New Hampshire? But I saw him in the right, and he was actually doing pretty good, like running like top 15 ish or something like that. So that might be a good option for him. But yeah, he probably you want to get him some Xfinity series experience before putting him in a full time Cup ride.
Yeah, and I mean that's it's kind of like the same scenario as SVG for Trackhouse. I would feel, just because I mean you want them to get that experience in the Cup car and in the Xfinity ride, because they're not the same build, right? Isn't
No,
there?
they're
There's
not.
differences. There's
Yeah.
differences with them, and so you know with SVG and Corey Heim, I feel like you need to get that type of experience in the Xfinity ride, running ovals in a car. Not just Corey Heim running trucks and stuff like that, because there's obviously a huge difference in speed and weight and there's a lot of differences when you start moving up the ladder in NASCAR.
And the level of talent too, for sure. That's
Exactly.
another thing that, yeah, it gets progressively, better as you go up. If you jump right into Cup, it's a tough ride when you don't have that experience in the Xfinity and stuff.
Yeah, and then I also feel like Riley Herbst would fit pretty well, with the sponsorship he has, and he's a top 20 driver. I feel some most weeks. Yeah, no, I definitely feel with the Monster sponsorship that Riley Herbst brings, I think it would definitely add to 23XI. I definitely think it'd be a good option for them for the short term. Corey Heim definitely needs some development, and I could see why it could be a long term thing for him. So, moving on here, we're going to get into some Penske Racing news. The team itself hasn't really. I mean, I know they've got Joey Logano who just won, and then they've got oh shit, what's his name? Why can't I?
Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. Blaney. They got Blaney. I don't know why I can remember his name for a
That's
second.
funny.
Maybe it's just because he wrecks out or loses gas in the last lap, and it's hard to remember somebody's name in the last place. But no, yeah. So Penske Racing, so Austin Cindric is not signed through next year, but his win will likely keep him in his ride. Which I mean, I feel like they could definitely upgrade from Cindric. Cindric's not the best driver in the world. He definitely helps out those top two drivers in Logano and Blaney. I feel. Especially when he's up there competing, he's usually always helping those two out, and he helped Blaney out before Blaney ran out of gas. So
Right.
blocking the whole field and everything, and yeah, so I think Cindric is a good puzzle piece for them. I don't think he's likely to win very often, but he's one of those what would you call it, like a wild card that might win a
Yeah.
race every year.
Yeah.
So
And he's always good at the super speedways too, Daytona, Talladega, and that's where he, has some success. So you can kind of not count on it, but you can at least count on him having a strong ride and a strong race at those tracks every time. But yeah, I think like a guy like Noah Gragson, for example, I think would be an upgrade, already running in the Fords and stuff like that. But yeah, with that win, it definitely helps out a lot for his case, even though Blaney was going to win that race. He was still, running top five and stuff. But yeah, he's kind of that middle of the pack driver, unless it is a super speedway. So,
yeah.
like I said, probably expect him definitely in that ride. But you think like there's definitely better drivers out there. Um, Moving on, though, let's go to your favorite team, Trackhouse. So, they have a couple of things. So Ross is good. Obviously, he's already signed. Nothing crazy there. But Daniel Suarez so far is not signed through next year. But he actually came out and said that he feels good about a deal getting done. So looks like he'll be sticking in the 99. What do you think about that?
No, I think it'll be a good signing for him. I feel like he's a puzzle piece fit. You know what I mean? We compared him to Austin Cindric when Austin Cindric won his race. He's a wild card that might get a win every year. But yeah, he's a good puzzle piece. Now I haven't seen Ross and him really have a good on track relationship at like Cindric does with Blaney and Logano.
Yeah,
Um, where they just help each other out. Like I've never seen Daniel Suarez try to block the whole field for him, and I've also never seen Ross Chastain try to block the whole field for Daniel.
right.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's like just bad chemistry there or whatnot, but I definitely think that he's a good puzzle piece fit. He's a good top 15 to 20 driver. Usually can get his sponsors up there in the top, and so it's
Yeah,
not. I think it'll be a good puzzle piece fit for Trackhouse.
yeah. I think he definitely is another popular guy that a lot of people like to follow and stuff like that. So wouldn't be surprised to see him in the 99 for another few years. The other news is that they're another one of the teams that we've talked about that's likely going to acquire a charter. And yeah, you brought it up about SVG, comparing him to like the Corey Heim kind of situation, maybe need, and that's what they're saying, that they want him, obviously, but he might need like another year in Xfinity just to get more experience and stuff. So yeah, that's what they're kind of looking at. And then Zane Smith is a name that could be a good option if they decide that SVG isn't ready. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that kind of plan for that third
Zane
car?
Zane Smith, he's a part-time Cup Series driver, right? Part-time. He drives full-time Xfinity.
I want to say he's full time. I think he's with isn't he with Spire Motorsports? I think.
He might be, but
I'm
I
not
thought he
sure.
was only part-time Cup. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with this. I mean, SVG coming from supercar racing, coming into NASCAR. I mean, that's definitely a huge difference, and he even said it too after he won his race in Chicago, and then he raced another race in I can't remember the track right now, but it was another road course track, and he definitely said that it's a huge difference coming from supercar to NASCAR. It's just, and he even said it's a lot harder. Um, and so I feel SVG, if he gets to have the chance of racing in the Cup Series full time, I don't know if we'll miss him, with the charter spot, and he'll have to go sign somewhere else. Um, but he's definitely one of the best road course racers
Oh yeah.
coming from supercar. I mean, he won Chicago easy. You know what I mean? It wasn't too hard for him to race Chicago because that's what he races.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it's a good plan. I don't think SVG is quite ready yet for the Cup races. I definitely think it'll be a huge talent change. And just a whole different ball game and challenge for him. So I like Zane Smith. Did you find out if he was?
Yeah, this is his first full time Cup season. So yeah,
Gotcha,
he is full time
gotcha.
Cup now. Just yeah,
Yeah, because
in
I
the
remember
71
seeing him
car.
last season. I remember seeing him last season as a part-time driver, and
Oh, I
full-time
think
Xfinity.
yeah, I think he's the one that McDowell's taking his ride. That's right. He's yeah,
Gotcha.
because Hocevar's stuck in the 77. LaJoy's going to be in that 7. Yeah, and Michael McDowell's taking his ride, so he's looking for a ride too.
I definitely think Zane Smith would be a good option. I mean, I haven't really seen him do much in Cup. It's his rookie year, obviously, so see what happens there.
Yeah.
But moving on, we got your favorite team, maybe.
Well.
Um, we got RCR. Austin Dillon is signed through next year. There has been chatter of him stepping aside, but it is not likely. I definitely think that they could upgrade from Austin Dillon. He's not one of the best drivers in the world, but I mean, who do you bring in to help Kyle Busch? You know what I mean? That's kind of the question, because that's what they need. They need. I think they need better sponsors for Kyle Busch. Get him in a better
Yes.
ride,
Hmm.
and then Austin Dillon maybe steps away. Because I mean, every time, especially the first season that Kyle Busch was riding for RCR, Austin Dillon, every time he tried to help Kyle Busch, it always ended in a wreck. So
Yeah.
I remember
Yep.
you complaining about that last year. Every time that Austin Dillon would try to help Kyle Busch at all, it would always turn into a wreck, or vice versa, just because Austin Dillon's not as technical of a driver, I would say, as Kyle Busch.
Oh, definitely.
Uh, so I would definitely say that they could step away from Austin Dillon, and I don't think it would be too much of a downgrade.
Yeah,
What do you?
definitely. I think that yeah, it's another one of those things though where he is, the grandson of the owner, and sponsorships for him are at least are pretty locked in, like we've talked about before. But no, I would love, like I've always talked about, Austin Hill is someone who I would love to take over that ride. I feel like he's, I'm surprised that he's not in Cup yet. Like he's obviously has plenty of experience in Xfinity. He's dominant in Xfinity and stuff. So I'd love to step him up and not lose him, to another team, especially with all these charters opening up. And that's another one. Thing is I was hoping that maybe we got one. There's talk about the 33 charter being a part full time, at least part of RCR, because I know they run it like Austin Hill's running this weekend at the Chicago Street Race in the 33. So they already have that, but they just need to make it full time. But I saw in the reports that it's not that likely that it would happen. But if it was, possibilities are Noah Gragson or Austin Hill. And I got pretty excited when I saw that news because I think I've been saying it this whole year. Like those are the two guys that I most want to be Kyle's teammate at RCR.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that Noah Gragson and Austin Hill could definitely upgrade that team to a different level. And if they, I don't know if they have the money and the sponsorships because when they brought in Kyle Busch, I mean, his sponsorships other than 3G, I feel aren't the best. I mean, he has Lucas Oil, right? Beer
Yeah,
Craft.
Beer Crick, and now he's got Zone. That Zone car, I hate it so much. That's his like main one this year. Um, it was funny because I saw like that. I think it was a post today that he was in the like they were unloading the car from the truck, and he's in the Zone car again, and everybody in the comments was saying the same thing. Like every time I see that car, I want to throw up or something like that. But yeah, like that was the thing. We talked about it that he's supposed to have 3G back, but still haven't seen that on the car. So I don't know if that's going to happen this year or what. But yeah, definitely need some better sponsors and some better looking cars.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that they could upgrade Kyle Busch's sponsors and maybe have a different design specialist go over the cars and stuff. So,
Right. All right. Well, that is the silly season kind of updates for now. We'll definitely continue to update you every episode when news comes in. But let's get into Nashville. Um, I don't really want to, but we got to do it, you know. But yeah, of course, stage one starts so great. Kyle Busch slides through his freaking pit box on the first pit stop of the race, and ends up losing a lot of time, goes a lap down because of it. And you already know he's starting in the back, so he was he already had a tough climb, and then that makes it even harder. But
yeah, no, I
yeah,
mean Kyle Busch. I mean, it's not. It just goes with the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Just bad mistakes, and the wrong time, and going a lap down that early is definitely not good for RCR as a whole. So I
no.
don't. Most of the time, they don't have the right to get back. So.
Seriously, and that's just the frustrating thing about this. I mean, this is such a forgettable season, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, But every time, so many of these things are not his fault. And then, but then, like, he has opportunities, and then he screws up as a driver, and I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, there's no matter what it is, someone's gonna screw up Kyle Busch, either him or other cars, his team, whatever happens. But yeah, that was pretty much the only like thing of note really in stage one for me. Christopher Bell, he ended up winning stage one, and I'll just say it's stage two. Um, Again, looking like the car to beat all freaking day. Um, and then we did have a rain delay in stage two again because it's freaking NASCAR and we rain every single week.
Mhm.
But we were able to get back racing. I want to say it was like a 2-3 hour delay or something like that. And we were on normal tires this time, so not the wet weather fiasco that we were talking about from New Hampshire. But then he
I
ends
feel
up
like
wreck. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like the track wasn't as wet either. I mean, there was just
Mm.
no pools. There was no pools of water, just lakes sitting on the track too.
Yeah. But yeah, we get back racing, and then the like I said, looking like the car to beat. Christopher Bell ends up spinning out, gets a little loose, and Rex ends his day. And then after that, we get some strategy coming into play, and people taking no tires, two tires, all kinds of track position got messed up, and somehow, some way, your boy Kyle Busch made it back into the top 10. Back on the lead lap. He was fighting hard all day. And then he even made it into the top five after a bunch of cautions. And then I know you were really excited about this. We were talking about it. It looked like he was kind of going to be the guy. Ross Chastain, he was lead. I think he led about 40, 50 laps. And kind of looked like the car to beat until Denny caught him with about 7 to go.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Just
And
yet
then,
another. Just yet another damn race that it just looks like he's ready to go, and something happens.
yep.
Just, I mean,
But it,
it's been like 6 races this year.
right, any race that he has a chance to win, it seems to that's when he gets the bad luck. That's when he gets the Kyle Busch, the Ryan Blaney type stuff. But it did look like, yeah, Denny caught him. Looked like Denny was going to win the race. But then we get a caution with 2 laps to go. And boy, oh boy, did this set up quite the interesting turn of events. I need to still, I forgot to look into this, but I wanted to look into this. I thought, or they must have changed the rule at some point because there used to be that you only got 3 overtimes. And if there was a caution on the third overtime, even with 2 laps to go, that would end the race. So I'm sitting there watching the race and I'm like, when is this race ever going to end? And I guess they changed it to unlimited overtime. So we ended up having a record setting 5 overtime finishes. And this set up a very interesting fuel strategy because already people have been saving. And then they had not only just 10 extra laps, but all the caution laps too. And so fuel became quite a storyline here. Um, but let's get into the first overtime. But we got to get into it. We got to do it. Okay. Your favorite driver, Kyle Larson, or sorry, Lee's favorite driver, Kyle Larson, uh, took it a little too hard, and Ross was already committed to his line, trying to win the race, and he gets into Ross Chastain and just clean takes him out, and among a bunch of others too. He did kind of force Kyle Busch into a no-win situation. He ended up getting stuck behind Ross Chastain, and he had to go up and he hit the wall. But luckily, it was minimal damage in NASCAR. This was kind of a controversy, but NASCAR like allowed him to stay in the position. That was another thing. I thought he was going to be uh, involved in the wreck, but they said that he met minimum speed and avoided it enough on his own because he never made contact with Ross or anybody else. Like I said, it was just a situation. But yeah, so he's able to stay in fourth at least for that restart. And but yeah, unfortunately, not only does Ross Chastain lose the win, but he loses the top 5 and yeah, gets a little bit of that luck. So I know that I know how that feels this year, but yeah, sorry about that, buddy.
I don't. Ross Chastain wrecks Kyle Larson a couple of times last year, and he gets called the bad guy. But Kyle Larson wrecks Ross Chastain, and nothing fucking happens. That's
Dude,
not this not the first fucking time Kyle Larson's done it either. That's what's so irritating because Kyle Larson does it to everybody at the end of a race. He'll run you off the track. He
yep.
will do it, which is understandable. It's aggressive driving. It's trying to go get the win. I get it. But when Ross Chastain does it, he's the bad guy. You know
Right.
what I mean? But Kyle Larson does it, and everybody fucking loves him. So,
Dude, I feel, yep, you're 100% right on that. And then in his post race like interview, he, was not even like that Ross Chastain type where I like uh give you a lot of shit for what Ross used to do like last season and the past couple seasons and stuff, but he was just like making excuses basically. Like he's like, "Hey, I had to do it. I had to go for the win and stuff like that." And then hey, I'm on your boat. I'm definitely not on the rest of NASCAR's boat because the very next fucking overtime start, he fucks it up. He probably ran out of fuel or didn't fire off because he was so low on fuel, and he just doesn't get going. Pinches Kyle back, and then Chase Kyle Busch, and then Chase Elliott gets into Kyle Busch, spins him out, ending his day, and for sure probably top 5 finish. So
yeah,
I feel you, bud.
when I seen what happened on the restart, I mean that's just That's just negligence right there. I mean, I understand that you're in the top two and you have a chance to go for the win, but I mean, you gotta know that your fuel is that low. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
there's no way in hell that you don't know that your car is that low on fuel that you can't even fire off. You know what I mean? You can't even hit the gas on the restart and the car doesn't go. Like, I feel like, especially at Hendrick too. Like, Hendrick's got like the best guys all around. So I mean,
Yep.
it's insane to me that when you go to start that restart, that you don't know that your car doesn't have enough fuel, and then you accordion the whole field, and
Yep.
it's just stupid. It's stupid racing, I feel.
Yeah. And like a lot that was another thing is that a lot of people are saying that he should have, pulled off and pulled out of the way. That's what happens a lot of times in those scenarios when drivers that just try to, push it a little bit. And I get that he has the ability to do that because he's got the 3 wins in his bag and he's top of points, so he doesn't need to worry about it. He can be gutsy, but yeah, supposed to pull off and get out of everybody's way to let the race continue how it should. And he also said that like he just couldn't do it in that situation. There wasn't enough time, space, whatever. And then
Yeah,
yeah,
bullshit.
so a lot of bullshit,
I've
right?
seen so many people off of restarts when they don't have the fuel to do it. They pull off to the side, like you said. I mean, you coming into the restart zone, as soon as you cross that line, you pull off to the side.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and I've seen it been done. And Kyle Larson's probably one of the best damn drivers that's in NASCAR right now, and he
Yeah.
couldn't pull off to the side. He has 3 wins on the season, leading the NASCAR in points. There's no reason to just ruin everybody else's day because you don't have enough fuel. It's
Yeah.
just, it's stupid.
I
Stupid racing.
100% agree. And he said he felt bad for the way things went down with
Aw.
Ross and Kyle Busch.
Aw.
So I hope that makes you feel better, Wesley. I don't. It doesn't really make me feel better, but
No.
our drivers need that freaking win. I mean, you never know. Beer crack, a sad beer crack, but a beer crack nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. One to
Yeah,
get rid of the sorrows.
right. But that's the thing. Our drivers really need that win. Obviously, Kyle really, really needs it, and Ross definitely needs it. He won't get his season at least back on track and just kind of jump started. But yep, another day. Maybe I know both our drivers aren't too terrible at the road courses, so we'll have to see how it works out for us. But yeah, so let's go ahead and finish this race, even though like none of the top guys were in it. So you had so many guys like Hamlin ended up running out of fuel, Truex ran out of fuel, Larson ran out of fuel. So all the like guys that were up there, they didn't end up winning the race. And then you had guys like Joey Logano, Zane Smith, Chase Briscoe, all these guys that hadn't been up there and in the lead. And I was actually surprised because Logano was one of the guys. He ends up on I think it was 110 laps of fuel, or at least since he had last pitted. And can't remember. I want to say that the window they were saying at the beginning of the race was like 80. So definitely lots of caution laps he was able to save and stuff like that. But Briscoe was up there and he had pitted a lot more recently than Logano, and I fully expected Briscoe to be able to fire off better and not have to worry as much and be able to run harder and win that race. But too bad that TJ's not here to celebrate and gloat and everything because Joey Logano, I don't know if you want to call it a real win, but it counts in the record books. Joey Logano gets the win at Nashville.
Yeah. No, because I remember right as soon as he passed the start finish line, he was cheering and everything, and in the middle of his cheer, he's like, "We're out of gas! Ha ha! We won! We won! We were out of gas!"
You know,
So I mean, I definitely think that's why NASCAR had the cap on the overtimes for the three overtimes capped, because obviously five you start to have a lot of guys running out of fuel and nobody's
yeah.
going to go pit. Nobody's going to go pit because you think that this last overtime is going to be the end. But yeah, when you start to get to five overtimes, I mean, the back of the field gets a chance. So
Yep. Yep, and that's why I swear Logano was in like 15th or something when the overtime restart started. So like the first of the five, but excuse me. Yep, he gets gosh, yeah, I wanted to get choked up and cry about Logano winning, especially after everything. It's man, what a race. And like I said, for Kyle Busch again to have a top 5 and get wrecked out of it is just God, I mean, like I said, he fucked up at the beginning of the race, but he and that team were able to get that car back in a position, possibly to win that race, and then at least, like I said, get a top 5, and he gets wrecked out of it. So
Yeah.
got to see him do sort of a bow on the track when he got out of his wrecked car, but I don't know if that made it worse or better for me. And then just one other thing I wanted to note, especially because we were talking to him about him earlier, that Zane Smith, he got his best finish in the Cup Series. He ended up getting second, so good for him. Again, it wasn't really like he was a second place or top 5 car, but hey, it goes down in the records books. So he was able to figure out a way to get up there. And then one more thing to note, his teammate Carson Hocevar, I didn't see it happen. I don't know if you saw it. I must have missed it, but he was making contact with Harrison Burton under caution, and he got fined $50,000 and docked 25 driver points for that move.
See,
So,
and this is what's stupid too, because I watched Hamlin bump Larson. Did
yep.
you see that?
Mm-hmm.
You see, I mean, Hamlin did the same fucking thing in the same race.
Yeah. But we're gonna go after Carson Hocevar and Spire
Yeah,
Motorsports, the lesser team. Like
it's
50,000 to Hamlin is a different thing than 50,000 to Carson Hocevar. So
yeah. I mean, it's insane to me. It's almost like wasn't it Hamlin's the one that had the too soon of a restart, right? And nobody flinched an eye at that either.
oh yeah, he jumped the
Yeah,
restart
yeah,
at Richmond, I think it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's that's just stupid, man. I mean, why go after the little guy when Hamlin did the same exact thing? And Hamlin's was on the broadcast.
Yeah, right.
I didn't see this happen. And Hamlin
Exactly.
did it on the broadcast.
For
So shouldn't
everybody
it
to
be
see.
flipped the other way around? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Shouldn't it be flipped for, find the guy that everybody saw fucking do it and not the guy that is not I mean, obviously he's not the best driver
Yep.
with the best car. So I mean, he wasn't on TV. So that's just stupid. Finding
Yeah.
somebody $50,000 for that.
Yep, I agree with you, and yeah, we didn't even see it. Like nobody really needed to know about it. I would get Harrison Button and Wood Brothers being upset about it, but gotta love NASCAR and the rules that they decide to enforce at certain times with certain people.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get into our power ranking segment. So it's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded, and so that we've had I think we missed a power rankings, but these are the updated ones. And just something to note, I looked at it last week and we were right about them keeping Kyle in the top 20. And then they moved up. I remember you said 6, I said 7. They moved Christopher Bell up 7 spots, just like we fucking said they would. And yeah, it gotta love the NASCAR power ranking. It's kind of funny to I'll get into it later when we get into mine and stuff, but it's kind of funny how everything's changing for NASCAR right now.
I
But
mean,
let's go.
I feel
Oh,
like
go
Kyle
ahead.
Busch needs to. I mean, like you were about to just say, getting into it. I mean, Kyle Busch is sitting at 20, and it's it's so stupid how he's at 20. I feel because I mean he's had a few good races where he's racing for the top 5, top 10,
Yeah,
but always ends up in the back. And so if NASCAR wants to stay true to their power rankings, like they are
the way
weird
they do
about,
it. Yeah,
then he should be out of the top 20.
right. And that's the thing. Like after New Hampshire, it was like I was like he should be out of the top 20. That's what we talked about it and stuff last time, but they ended up keeping him in. And now after like this race, I could see a little bit different because he was running a lot stronger at least than he did at New Hampshire, but not like after last week. That's why I took him out. But yeah, and no change this week. So he was 20 last week. He's 20 this week. His season low. No surprises. I mean, if he ends up with the top 5, I see him up, to maybe 17 or 18 or something like that. well, with NASCAR, he might have been up to 12. But yeah, Kyle sticks at 20. And I guess I just got to be thankful that he's in the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be thankful there because he definitely, I don't feel like deserves to be there right now. Definitely, probably back in like 23 to 25 range, I would say. Um,
Jeez.
just because, I mean, and you know it's true too. You know it's true too.
Uh, I might just disagree a little bit just because, like I said, he was in the top 5, and so this time, and just with other drivers and stuff, like I don't know the people around there. But I get your point about obviously he hasn't got the finishes and stuff like that, but I don't know.
Well, yeah,
20 is bad enough.
but then you could say that Ross Chastain deserves to be up at 8 because he's fought for the win 4 or 5 times now and got wrecked out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So he could be put up to 8 if that's how you want to look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, going into the odds for Kyle Busch this week, we got Chicago. What's the
The
technical name for it?
street race or street course, road course. Yeah. They go through
Yeah.
the streets of downtown Chicago.
Yep. He's got 30 to 1 odds this week, so not terrible. Not terrible odds. Maybe he can get that top 5 like you're talking about, and maybe move up a little bit in the standings. I think he should stay at 20, even with the top 5. But
No, if he gets a top 5, he should definitely move up, and hopefully he can just keep a little more consistency. I'd take a top 10. Really, that would just be good. But yeah, we do got to figure out some really good finishes or a win because we're running out of time for the playoffs. So, but let's jump on up to number 12, where Mr. Joey Logano jumps up 2 spots from the previous week. Like I said, got his real win. So I get this, but he is down since the last power rankings we covered. I think he got up to 11. And I can't remember. I think it was Iowa or something like that. And we had talked about just it being a weird time to move him up and stuff like that. So he's technically down from the last power rankings we had, even though he did get his win.
yeah. I mean, Joey. Problem is he's got the win now, right? So I
Yep.
mean, do you put him in the category with Austin Cindric and Daniel Suarez, or do you put him in the category with the top 10 drivers that have one win, like Brad Keselowski or those type of drivers? Like, which category do you kind of put him in? Is this Joey Logano starting to get to the point in his career where he's just a wild card driver that only gets one win a year, or
Right.
is he still back in good Joey Logano where he gets a win like Brad Keselowski does, type of thing, So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think even TJ would say that he is that first one that you talked about, the getting the wild card win a year. He's been the one that's been talking about like, hey, bud, it's time to put our drivers out to pasture, whatever. Like our guys are old and done. And yeah, obviously, like he wasn't a top 5 driver in this race, so I think I would put him personally of those 2 categories. I would make a new category and put him in the middle, like what you said. Like I think he's a step above the Suarez and the Cindrics because he has had some races where he's been a top 10, top 5 car where the others have not, besides the one race they won and then maybe a couple here or there. He's been a little more consistent, but I think we've talked about it. Like he's not nearly as consistent as Brad Keselowski this year, and we've talked about how the RFK Fords have been overall the more consistent and better Fords this year. But yeah, I would put him in his own category for sure. That's what I would do, is right in the middle.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, Joey Logano has the prestige to stay there. Daniel Suarez and Austin Cindric obviously don't. So, but looking at the Chicago race, he's got 45 to 1 odds to win this one. So, I mean, I think we talked about this once before, and we looked it up, and I think he's only gotten 1 or 2 road course wins in his
Yep.
career.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is understandable, being 45 to 1. They probably bumped his odds up a little more just because he just won. So I think 45 to 1 is maybe just a
Might
tad
be a
too
little
high.
generous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, let's move on to number 11, your boy Ross Chastain. So he drops 2 spots from last week, um, which I guess he had the top 5 in the bag, right? So at least he had that and possibly could have won that race. I don't think 2 spots down is like a unfair drop, but I could see you arguing, or just anybody arguing that like maybe uh, he shouldn't have dropped, at least based on this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should have dropped out of the top 10. I mean, like you were saying earlier, if we're going to go off of how they looked during the race, then he should at least be at number 10. Because, I mean, a lot of the drivers that are in the top 10 have a win, which is, I understand Ross Chastain shouldn't be above those guys. But he has had a lot of almost top 5 finishes and a lot of almost wins on the season, which obviously doesn't count for anything. But his car was looking good. He was a car to beat in all those races, and I feel he should at least be in the top 10. So at least over the guy that we're going to talk about next. So
Yeah, yeah. How are his odds looking for Chicago?
he's looking at 28-1. So beer crack.
Beer crack.
Um, he's looking at 28-1 this week in Chicago. So we'll see. We'll kind of see how it goes. He's decent at road courses. He likes those top 5 finishes at road courses, but
I'd say
street
he's
race.
pretty. He's better than decent, but yeah, I don't remember how he did at this. It's a different type of road course than the
Yeah,
ones that he's more successful at.
yeah, the street racing in Chicago. I definitely. That's why SVG shined so much last year. Was because it's brand new. It's a different. I'm betting it's a different type of asphalt in the way that it's made and stuff. Just because it's on the streets, it's not. You know what I mean? It's just it's a different type of racing. So we'll see how Ross Chastain does.
Yeah, a little bit better odds than Kyle Busch. So the best odds we got so far. But yeah, let's move on to number 10, which is Chris Buescher. So he takes one of those spots from Ross Chastain, up one from last week. And I get it, but I also think that Chris Buescher, he's in that same like boat as Ross Chastain, where he's had a couple of wins that he was we talk about all the time, 1,000th of a second away from the win at Kansas, and then he gets wrecked out by Tyler Reddick at Darlington. So if you're looking at things go a little differently, he's a two-time winner this season, and maybe up in the top 5, maybe even. And he has kind of like gotten back on track, though. He's got back-to-back top 5s now, and then 3 top 5s in the last 4 races. So I think I would disagree with you here. I think that he does deserve that spot over Ross, especially with the recent success.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess you could say that, but I mean, I'm just gonna keep going off of what you said about Kyle Busch because because Ross has had now 5 to 6 races where he could have won, or at least finish top 3,
Yeah.
and I understand that Chris Buescher may have a few more top 5 finishes, but if you want to go off of how the car looked that week and how the kind of cars looked all season, I feel like Ross Chastain has kind of looked a lot. He's had a lot closer to being a lot better than Chris Buescher. So you bring up the 2 almost wins for Chris Buescher. Like I just said, Ross Chastain's had 5 to 6 now. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Chris Buescher, because I think he was in the lead or he was in the top 5 at Iowa, and then there was that Sonoma race he finished top 5. And if strategy worked a little bit differently, so I think that he is. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's in that same boat. Maybe Ross has had 5 to 6 of those, and he's had 3 to 4. But I think that especially like he's got 3 top 5s in the last 4 races, which that's like he's finishing, he's showing consistency and he's showing strength versus where Ross did have this top 5. And I give you that, like where we're looking at, I feel like a difference that we have, one of our biggest differences between power rankings of NASCAR and ours, or at least the way we look at it, is we look at the strength of the car and the driver's race a little bit more than their finish, especially when something happens out of their control. So I think they're both in that boat. You know what I mean? But I see your point. Like Ross has had probably more consistency. At least like we always talk about how he finishes 11th to 13th or whatever. And Chris Buescher's probably a little more of a roller coaster, but I think right now he's on this on the up, and yeah, that's why I would probably give him that spot. But how are we looking for him going into the street race?
He's got some pretty damn good odds coming into the street race. He's got 16 to 1. So obviously NASCAR thinks that he's, you know, improving on his season, especially from going from down here up to up here, then back
Yep.
down again, and now he's on the climb again. So he's looking at 16 to 1 odds this week. So pretty good odds for
Pretty,
him.
yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Let's move on to number 9, who definitely doesn't have as good of odds, and we saw this the last time we were at a road course. But Brad Keselowski, so he moves up one spot from last week as well, takes one of those spots from Ross Chastain, and yeah, he's I think just overall been kind of slipping down. He hasn't had great finishes as of late, and I'm not really sure. I can't remember where he finished in Nashville, but it was all weird, for sure. So,
He
but
wrecked
yeah,
out.
him move. Oh, he wrecked out. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I remember that. So yeah, him moving up one spot in that scenario is a little weird. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Brad at number 9?
He was looking pretty good at Nashville, from what I can remember. He had the 10. I think he was running in the top 10 up until the end, and then obviously they started playing musical chairs with the positions and stuff. So, but yeah, he did get wrecked out. He slammed his car into the wall pretty damn hard. So, but yeah, he's. I think this is a good spot for Brad. Like we said, I feel like him and Busher have been doing the same thing with the fluctuation of how their season's been going, but Brad actually has a win,
Yeah,
so you have to put Brad over Busher. Um, so I would, and I mean, coming into this next race, like you said, him and his fucking road courses. I don't know what's wrong with it. He's got 100 to 1 odds in the top 10. That's just insane to me. To be in the top 10 and be that bad at road courses is just insane.
100 to 1, man. I remember us saying that the last time. But jeez, yeah. Well, not yeah. Don't look for the number 6 to be up front too much, is what I would say. But let's move on to number 8 in our power rankings, which is William Byron. So he's down one spot from last week, but 5 from our last time covering the rankings, and now at his season low. So yeah, I mean, at 8, especially with some of the drivers that are above him, is pretty crazy. Um, but he's got those 3 wins. I know, like we talk about it every week. He's got those 3 wins. They were very early on, but
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
it
He's not
matters
as
though.
strong, but he's not. I don't know. I don't think he's the 8th best driver. I think
I
he's.
just
I think
don't
he
think
deserves
it
a little more
matters.
credit.
I think that he should be in the top 5. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
has. If you want to go off of power, you have to look at the whole season, and he needs to be in the top 5. I've said this all year because even when they disrespected him big time and pushed him back to like 9, I was like, this is insane. Like I don't understand. Even at that point, I think he only had 2 wins on the season, but Hamlin was the only guy that had 3. And so I was
Yeah.
like, this is just insane to me that they're disrespecting William Byron. I understand that his season's gone down. It's just those 3 wins are such a huge outlier, and it just doesn't seem to be. It doesn't. Even if they are early in the season, he still deserves to be in the top 5 of power rankings. 3 wins is fucking insane in a
Yeah.
NASCAR season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have 3 drivers that have done it, and the other 2 drivers are staying in the top 5. Why
Exactly.
is William Byron
Right.
not?
Yep.
but coming into this race, he's got 12 to 1 odds for Chicago. So
Okay.
he's looking at maybe getting a really good spot, and maybe getting that fourth win on a season.
Yeah, I definitely can see him doing it. But let's move on to number 7. So he's down 2 spots from last week, but up 1 overall since we last talked about it. And this, to me, is a little surprising, especially when you have a guy sitting right behind him in William Byron. Because, yeah, Truex not only still winless, but he hasn't had a top 10 in 6 of the last 7 races. So he's got 1 top 10 in the last 7 races. So
Yeah.
why is he above William Byron? I know that Byron has had a top 10 in that time and 3 wins. So he's definitely a top 10 guy. I'm not saying Truex is not a top 10 guy. Um, I mean, you could make the argument that he's not actually. I think he's probably a 9th, 10th, but he's not better than William Byron. Not this season. You can't put him
No,
above him.
I would definitely I might even put Brad over him just because Brad has the win. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know if he falls past Busher. I don't know who has the more top fives this year. Um, but I would definitely put even Brad over the top of Martin Truex because he just hasn't had the win yet. And I get that Truex had a lot of good finishes
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the season and towards the middle, and then he's on a downtrend now, which is why he's starting to fall back places in the power rankings. But I still think that he's too high.
Yeah.
But coming into Chicago, he's got 11-1, so maybe it's finally his time. I mean, Truex is pretty good at road courses, right?
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
least
he
at
is.
least Sonoma, right?
Oh, yeah. He's probably the
Um,
best at Sonoma, you could argue, of all
so
time, I would say. But yeah.
So I mean, I like Truex coming into this week. Maybe he finally gets that win. I know he obviously didn't win at Sonoma. He took his car ran out of gas, right?
Yeah, he was going to be second, but then he ended up like 27th or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. But I definitely think they're disrespecting some drivers, especially William Byron. They're
Yeah,
disrespecting the hell out of William Byron. So
100%. And the thing is, too, it's like it's not like it's a recency thing. That 7 races, that's 2 months. He's had 1 top 10 in the last 2 months.
yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. Like I said, they did drop him this week, which is, I guess, a little respectable. But like I said, he's up 1 spot from where he was the last time we covered it. And why? I don't know. But let's go on up to number 6, which is Ryan Blaney. Um, and I kind of like this spot around number 6 because he's got his consistency down, I think. He is running in the top 5, running in the top 10. Obviously, he's got his win now. So I like him at number 6. I know that you can, argue that William Byron would be ahead of him. But other than that, I mean, I think that you could maybe say he's better than Brad. I know Brad had a good run and he got that win, but then it's kind of fallen off. And Blaney's, it's kind of like I would kind of say like he's on that path of Bell right now, where they both kind of started bad, but are hitting their stride at the right time.
yeah. And I mean, I think Ryan Blaney coming in at 6 is a good choice. Just and we'll keep bringing it up, especially for the next few drivers. I feel, at least in my opinion. But I mean, moving William Byron up, I think he should at least be to 4. So I would put him over Brian Blaney too, even
Yeah,
though Ryan Blaney has had a little bit more consistency lately, and has the 1 win. But I feel like a lot of these guys that have 1 win are pretty damn consistent in the top 10. So I definitely would feel. I mean, we'll bring it up even more, but yeah, William Byron needs to go up to 4. Ryan Blaney at 6, I think, is okay. Um, Coming into Chicago, though, he's got 35-1 odds to come into Chicago, so it's not like the best. I know Ford. I mean, Ford as a whole, I don't think is pretty good at road courses because I mean, I don't think there's anybody. There's nobody above Ryan Blaney that's a Ford,
Chris
and
Busher.
I think
Chris Busher's
yeah,
got 16-1.
Chris Buescher's got some good odds. I was just saying in the power rankings, there's nobody above.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the odds. Gotcha. No,
Yeah,
I
no,
get
no,
you.
no. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Chris Buescher does have 16-1 odds, so definitely the best Ford at the road courses this week for the odds. But I don't know. I just never see Fords really do well in the road
Yeah.
courses. So
Haven't had much success for a while, that's for sure. Well, let's move on up to Tyler Reddick, who's up one spot from last week. He was kind of the car that he ended up pitting, and he was the one that could make it up, and made it up into the top five. I think he had the top five in this race, but he just needed a little more time. 2 laps is just not enough time in NASCAR, especially anymore, to make a bunch of passes the way you can aero block and stuff like that. But he had a strong car again, and he's got the win, and then 5 top 6 finishes in the last 10 races. So he's up there consistently. We talk about how he's really carrying the load, for 2311 racing, especially as of late when Bubba's kind of been falling off. So I like him in the top 5 here.
Well, and I feel like Tyler Reddick has been carrying 2311 Racing since he's come in. I mean, Tyler Reddick's always been a good driver. And, and I feel like on every team, the team kind of puts more money into a certain driver. And I feel like
Yep.
that money's definitely going towards Tyler Reddick, and it always has been. Um, yeah, I mean, nothing to argue here, really. Um, he's coming into Chicago with 6-1 odds. We all kind of see that one coming because Tyler Reddick is pretty good at road courses.
Oh yeah.
I dare say it's definitely his best type of racing is on the road courses. And that's saying something because he at the ovals he does pretty well too. So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I like him at 5, and then let's just move on up to number 4, which is Chase Elliott, who drops down another spot. He still is tied for the lead in points after this race, and then he does have an average finish of 9.12. So that is honestly pretty insane, especially for the fact that he doesn't have a couple more of those wins in there to help that average. So man's been consistent. I feel like we haven't been hating on him, but more just NASCAR. I think we're thinking that they're giving him too much love. But I kind of, I like it in the 4th position. Now, like, he's got the win. I would say Tyler Reddick has been in position a couple of more times, maybe to win a race. Um, and then obviously you could argue we've already talked about Byron, but I think with that average finish and the fact that he's tied for the lead in points with Kyle Larson, who's got the 3 wins, that counts for something in my book.
yeah, I mean it does, but I would probably bump him back one, because like I said earlier, this is probably the furthest that I would put William Byron is at 4. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably bump Chase back to 5, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Where we're not technically hating on Chase Elliott. We just don't understand why NASCAR gives. I mean, I can understand why NASCAR gives him so much love. He is the most loved driver in NASCAR. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I just don't feel he needs to be up there in 4. But coming into Chicago, he's got 17-2 odds. So pretty good odds this week. He's a Hendrick driver. I mean, the Hendrick boys always get love. So
Yeah, and he's pretty damn good at the road courses. He always has been a good road course driver. So I could expect to see him up there and definitely getting another at least top 10. Probably might be looking at a top 5. Um, let's move up to number 3, which is Christopher Bell. He actually drops one spot from NASCAR's power rankings, and I I don't know. It's hard because obviously the other 2 guys have been up there all year, except for NASCAR moving Hamlin back to 4, like we already fucking went over before. But I could see him at 2, but I can also see him at 3. Hamlin was in position to win this race too, so that's another thing. Even though Bell was looking like the car to beat, Hamlin was up there too. So I can't be like too mad. I could see flip flopping those drivers, but at the same time, I think 3 is still a good spot. He's definitely no lower than 3, I would say, for Christopher Bell.
yeah, no, I mean, because what's Bell at? He's on 2 wins this season.
3. He's got the
3
3
now.
wins now.
So we got 4 drivers on 3 wins.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put him. I mean, Christopher Bell has looked pretty damn good as of late. I mean, he's got 8 stage wins this year.
Wow.
Um, so he's looking pretty good this year, especially with coming on so late into the season. Like you have been saying for some of the other drivers, I think it's just coming. He's turning it on at the right time of the season, starting to get hot, and he went through a misfortune at um,
In
Nashville.
Nashville and New
Yeah,
Hampshire, remember too, that was that weird mechanical failure he had. So like you're looking at a guy that could possibly have 5 wins this season. So
yeah, no, and I mean, yeah, Christopher Bell's been dominant as of late. Like I said, 8 stage wins on the season. It's pretty good. So he's coming into Chicago with 11-2 odds this week.
man,
So, it's not surprising to me at all, just because of how good he's been racing recently. So,
yeah, yeah, I definitely got to be a guy to look out for. And yeah, it seems like the Toyotas overall doing pretty good so far. But yeah, let's move up to number 2, which is Danny Hamlin, like I mentioned. So he stayed at number 2 from last week, but then like I've been saying the last since the last time we did power rankings, he's up 2 because that's when we were talking about him being down to 4 for whatever reason. And again, I already kind of explained why I could see him at 2 and 3. He was very close to being the first 4-time winner, and if he wins that race, are we talking about him at number 1, right? So it's I could see him at number 2. Now, if he wins that race, I might be able to see him at number 1. But again, definitely a top 3 driver. I feel like these top 3 have solidified themselves from the rest of the pack for sure.
well, and I feel like the top 4 should be solidified with William Byron at 4. And that should be the solidified top 4 in my opinion. So, I think Denny Hamlin at 2. If he exactly to your point, if he would have won the race, I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind he should have went to 1.
Yeah.
Um, even and it fucking pains me to say that because I despise Denny Hamlin.
Well,
There's
I
a
don't know.
reason
I
why
wonder which one you like least or less at these days. Number
dude,
1 or number 2 in our power
and they're
ranking.
both 1 and 2.
Yep.
That's the hard part is they're both really fucking good drivers, and it just pains me to. But yeah,
to
I
see him
mean,
up
coming
there.
in, yeah, it just pains me to see him up there. But yeah, coming into Chicago, he's got 35-1, so
Wow.
not good
Not that
odds
great.
to be in the top 5. So yeah, I don't know why they have him so low in the odds, but we'll see.
Yeah, looking like they're not thinking he's going to be too strong at this kind of racetrack, I guess. And wouldn't be surprised if he gets left off our pickums with this group, especially with those odds. So,
Yeah.
and then yeah, number 1, Kyle Larson staying put there. No, no issues still here. Like I said, if Hamlin wins that race, you can bump him down to 2, but he was in the top 5. He wrecked about everybody in the top 5. But yeah, he's the best driver in NASCAR this season. He's always got the crazy good odds. He's always up there. So, yep, Kyle Larson at 1.
Yeah, I'll just say his odds. He's got 11-2 for Chicago. That's all I want to say about Kyle Larson.
That's it, huh? That's it. Well, another guy that we need to make sure we talk about the odds. He's not in the power rankings, obviously, because he's not a full-time Cup driver, but he's it's your boy SVG, of course, looking up there at 11-2 odds as well, which is no surprise. And the best odds, the tied for the best odds this week, because it's the track built for him, like we've said. So yeah, not going to be shocked if we see a back-to-back SVG dominant performance at Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a racetrack that's built in his domain.
Yep.
And he raced supercar before he came over, and it's right up his alley. So I mean, I definitely could see him going back to back.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into my power rankings. So it's kind of funny because I had this top 4 about 2 weeks ago, the last time we talked about it. and now NASCAR has finally matched me. But yeah, I'll go Kyle Larson at 1, and then Denny Hamlin at 2, Christopher Bell at 3, and then Chase Elliott at 4. And I also have matched them with Tyler Reddick at 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue too much with it. Besides I'd put Byron at 4 and probably kick Chase Elliott out. I feel like Tyler Reddick has had a better season than Chase Elliott,
Yeah.
so I would probably kick Chase Elliott out of your top 5 and put Byron in there at 4.
I can see that. So just kind of flip flop them. But yeah, I think I'm going to give Elliott just a little more love just because, and I'll say, I don't know. We definitely, prioritize wins as you should in NASCAR. But I would give him, because they have the same amount of wins, him and Reddick, and he's just been so damn consistent. He's still got that top 20 streak, everything like that. So that's why I put him at 4. But yeah, when you get those wins, I can see you putting, when Brian has those 3 wins, putting him in the top 5 or the top 4 along with the other guys with 3 wins. But I'm going to have him at 6 in my power rankings, and then Blaney down 1 spot from NASCAR at 7, because I'm still going to I think Byron's had a better season than Blaney for sure. And then I'm going to have Truex at 8, Brad at 9, and then Chris Buescher at number 10.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like we've been flip flopping Ross Chastain at 10 and 11 pretty much all year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he deserves to be any higher than 10.
Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, Chris Buescher has been turning it on a lot recently, and Ross Chastain finally looked like a winning car in the top 5 at Nashville. So I might keep it the same. I mean, there's an argument to be said there for Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain to be flipped. And that's not even just me being biased towards Ross. I feel like there's an argument there. But yeah, I would probably keep it the same, other than put Byron up at 4 and Chase Elliott back at 6.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But yeah, then like you said, I got Ross Chastain at 11, and then I'm gonna put Joey Logano up to 12, just because I think that the guys behind him. So I'll just say Ty Gibbs at 13, Alex Bowman 14, and Bubba Wallace 15. I think Ty Gibbs had a stronger start to the season for sure. He's slipped off a lot as of late. Bowman is on his way down, I think, and so is Wallace. So I'll give Joey Logano the credit here, not just because of the win, but because he has had a few top 5 and top 10 finishes that a lot of these guys are not getting in the last month or 2.
Yeah, I mean, Bowman might be the only guy that you could argue for that, just because he has so many top 10s on the year. I know he has been slipping off recently, but I feel like Bowman's the only guy out of that group that you could argue could be higher than Joey. But I would almost, and this pains me to say too, just because it's so hard looking back on the season, because Ross Chastain not having a win hurts a lot. And I mean, and we prioritize wins pretty well. So I won't be a biased asshole, Ross. And I might put, and you can put Ross anywhere between 12, 11, and 10. There's an argument to be made for all 3 of them.
Or he finishes every week, except not 10,
exactly.
11, 12, or 13.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely an argument to be put out there for, Ross to be at 10, 11, or 12, and there's a chance that, Joey could be at 11 because he has the race win. So
right. But that's the thing too, is if we don't have 5 overtime finishes, if Logano runs out of fuel, you might be talking about Logano in 16 or something, you know what I mean? So
but then you could put Byron over Christopher Bell, because Christopher Bell has the asterisk with the rain delay race.
Yeah, right. And all this.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could definitely get into like nitpicking and all this stuff. So I definitely get that. Well, let's finish it out. The last 5 here. Chase Briscoe, I'm going to go at 16. Austin Cindric at 17. Daniel Suarez at 18. I'm going to put Josh Berry at 19. And then I am going to put my boy Kyle Busch back in the top 20. I took him out. Okay, so I think deserves some credit for that. I'm going to put him back in the top 20 just because I don't know if you're talking about guys like who have been there, like Carson Hocevar, Michael McDowell's been the 20th guy, like those kind of guys, especially when Kyle had a good ride this week and like he did at Sonoma and stuff. So like if he finishes those races, I'm looking at the strength of the car and everything. I'm gonna put him in the top 20. I get like you kind of talked about maybe him not deserving that earlier, but yeah. So Briscoe 16, Cindric 17, Suarez 18, Barry 19, and then Kyle Busch at 20.
I mean, and you're not giving what's his name? What the fuck is his name? I can't remember his name now. The guy that punched or the guy that Ross punched. So I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
Noah Gragson.
Yeah, you're not giving Gregson any love anymore because Kyle Busch is sitting at 20.
Well, that's the thing. He hasn't been as consistent as of late too. Like that's his teammates Briscoe and Barry. They've I think they both finished top 5 at New Hampshire, and then obviously Briscoe had a top 5 run at Nashville. So I think they've just been a little more consistent as of late. And yeah, Gragson's kind of slipped off a little bit. He's another one of those guys, yeah, that's been around that 20 spot.
So yeah, I mean, I don't got much of an argument here with the last 20. I mean, Austin Cindric and Daniel Suarez have to be there. They have to be in the top 20. I feel like because of their race win. I mean, I might push Kyle Busch back to like 21, 22, just
Mm-hmm.
because he has had such an inconsistent season, and when he does have that top 5 car, something happens to him. I mean, but we can argue that type of shit all day long with a
Yeah.
lot of drivers. So,
The
like
fact
you
of the
said,
matter is he's at 20, and if you want to sit here and argue about the 20th place, like I'm not going to sit here and like defend it to my grave. You know what I mean? Who gives a shit if he's 20, 21, or 22? He fucking sucks this year. Okay, so
yeah.
but
I
yeah.
just have to make sure that you fucking know it, bud. That's I have to make sure that you know it.
Oh, well, thank you. I
One of
definitely
your
do.
one of your favorite sports related people besides the Jazz are now one at their worst points in their career. I mean, Tom Brady was never there, so you're lucky there.
Well, that's the thing. You look at all my sports, like Kyle Busch sucking, Jazz ass, Patriots third worst team in the NFL, and even the Utes had a down year last year. So, like, yeah, sports are just great. I love them. But I still gonna watch it. It gets harder and harder every week, but I'm still such a big NASCAR fan. I'll continue to watch it. So. All right, well, let's finish her out. Let's get our pickems in there. So, just to remind everybody, so we haven't picked for a couple weeks, but the last updated standings, I'm still in the lead at 31, and then you are 2 back at 29, and then TJ's back at 21 points. But he did get the win at Iowa because he picked Ryan Blaney, and then I had a better average finish, got second. You got third that week, so you get the first pick at the Chicago Street Race. So who are you thinking for that?
Do we have to pick full time drivers or no?
No, you can pick whoever's in the race.
All right, all right. Well, I think I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell.
Nice. Okay. I like that pick. I was hoping to get him for sure, but not surprised he goes off the board. I'm surprised you didn't do it. I thought you'd stick with it, but I'm going to take him. SVG is my pick, and so then TJ will get the third pick. We're going to do the kind of the same thing we've done a couple of times. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it on this week, but we're going to try to give him the best that we can, and then we'll let him adjust. So if we do have any changes, we'll update it on our Instagram and make sure you see that on our stories. So I got SVG, and then you got Bell. Now, I think Kyle Larson would have the best odds, but we know TJ, and he's not a picker of Larson or Hamlin.
I think he'd go Pusher.
You think Busher? I was
I
thinking
think
Busher, or do you think he would go Reddick with the 6-1 odds?
I don't think TJ cares about the odds.
That's a good point. Okay, let's give him Chris Busher then. All right, and so who will you like for your second pick?
Just because I said that last sentence doesn't mean that I'm, trying to sway the odds here, but I'm gonna go Tyler Reddick.
Surprise, surprise. We'll have
It
to see if
sucks
that
that,
pick stays true.
maybe TJ should have been here.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm saying.
There you go. Okay, well, damn it. You took the guy I wanted, but I'll go ahead and take Kyle Larson, even though I freaking hate his guts right now. I'm gonna stick true to the strength of that 5 car and how good of odds he always has. So Kyle Larson, my second pick. So who we got left here towards the top? Chase Elliott's at 17-2. Blaney's at 35-1. He might still go Blaney. Just we know him.
Let's give him Truex.
You want to go Truex at 11-1? Okay. We will do that. So who is your third pick?
I think I'll go with the wild card this week. I'll take Ross.
Nice. Got to take him at those road courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hopefully he gets you 11th or 12th place finish. That doesn't mess up your average finish too much. Okay, so who we got left? We got Chase Elliott still on the board. Byron on the board.
I think I'd give him.
Oh,
He'd
it's my.
probably
Oh,
take it.
oh, it's
Oh,
me.
it's yours?
It's me.
Oh, my
Yeah,
bad, my bad.
I think I'm gonna go with Larson Hendrick teammate and road course expert Chase Elliott. And then, yeah, who you think we're looking at for TJ for the third and final pick?
I'd probably just give him Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. Okay, sounds good to me. So, just to recap it, make sure everybody knows, Ross Wesley has picked Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Ross Chastain. I picked SVG, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. Somehow I got the 2 drivers with the best odds in there. Thank you very much for that. And then we got TJ with Chris Buescher, Martin Truex, and Ryan Blaney. Now, like I said, we'll update it if we need to and make sure you see it on our Instagram, which be sure to check us out on there, and TikTok, YouTube Shorts as well as watching us full podcast on YouTube and Spotify. So thank you for joining us for another Redneck Boys edition, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.